Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game, and well, maybe a slightly optimistic one this one, as it's West Ham against Arsenal on Wednesday night at the London Stadium. Gonzo, as always, what's your thoughts on our opponents, the Gunners?
They are losing players hand over fist. They seem to be reaping what they sowed, as much as they didn't sign players down on long-term contracts. So they had to lose Oxlade-Chamberlain, who was getting towards the end of his contract, albeit they got a fee. Wilshire's running out of contract, but the big ones are obviously Sanchez and Ozil, two of their bigger players. So it seems that they are maybe have picked up in form a little bit, but perhaps they're playing for a January transfer. They're certainly not going to sign anymore. So they're a club in transition. This has been the first season they're not in the Champions League for as long as I can remember, certainly. So, yeah, they're a funny club, Arsenal. A funny club, not the strong Arsenal that we maybe knew a few years ago.
Charlie, what about yourself? What's your thoughts on Arsenal? Are you impressed by them this season, or are you disappointed, or is this what you expected?
Somehow both impressed and disappointed in a way. I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd be looking at, okay, we're not in the Champions League. We need to be pushing on in the league and really challenging, like a la Chelsea and people like that, despite the fact they did obviously have European football. I think that's the sort of thing they would have been wanting to do. They brought in Lacazette, a known striker. They were like, okay, now we can build and go forward. And I think at times they've looked really, really good. And depending on what sort of front three they're playing, at times they look brilliant. And then other times, especially the last couple of games, they look a bit shaky at times and they look a bit tentative. And for example, I was watching Match of the Day last night and they barely had any highlights whatsoever. And it's not something we're used to seeing with Arsenal, but it's also a bit disappointing. So they're up and down and they're not the most predictable of teams.
Charlie mentioned they brought in Lacazette. Is it sort of bringing in Lacazette one season too late now, the fact that Ozil and Sanchez have made up their mind they want to leave Arsenal? Is it this sort of striker they should have brought in a year ago when the world and his dog could see Arsenal needed a striker?
Yeah, basically, I feel like they needed. I like Giroud a lot, actually. I'm quite honest when I say I like him a lot. I think that although they are desperate for someone to just go and put the ball in the net, he's absolutely amazing, almost second to none in the Premier League of bringing midfielders into play. And with Arsenal's just ridiculous amount of midfielders, that's kind of what they want to happen. But they were desperate for a guy to go and put the ball in the net. All the fans wanted it. Everyone wanted it. And that's a guy who can do it. Lacazette is more than capable of doing it. The problem is now is that they seem to be just dysfunctional everywhere else. And the uncertainty around the likes of Sanchez and Ozil and people like that just grows the sense of dread that they're dealing with now.
Hey Gonzo, they look like they're out of the title race already. It's not even Christmas yet. They're out of it. Is top four considered an achievement for Arsenal now? Or do you think this is sort of like a shame how far they've fallen almost?
Well, they would certainly consider it to be a shame. I think the fans would probably bite your hand off for top four right now. Although I do wonder about this continually qualifying for top four and that being a be-all and end-all of your ambitions. In many respects, I think possibly what Man United did last season in winning the Europa League, and they picked up maybe the League Cup, did they win or something? I just think there's more glory in doing that than there is just finishing third or fourth and having no trophies. These will be the fallow years, the barren years in many respects, because whilst they've picked up, they have gone on runs in some FA Cups and bits and pieces in recent years gone by. They don't ever think they feel that they really go for anything. I don't think it's an achievement. Top four, I think a club as big as Arsenal that's had a transition to a new stadium should really be qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, they brought in Lacazette, but it's a year too late now. Sanchez and Ozil, your two players that you need Lacazette to play with, want out. It's too late. For some reason, they won't play Jack Wilshere. Now, I watched them against Southampton. They look boring, sideways, backwards. Wilshere come on, then bam, they're on the front foot. They're creating stuff. But for some reason, he still just can't get a game. I don't know what it is. There's just something that he just cannot start. And I hope he doesn't start on Wednesday night, actually. He's the one. I pray that it's Ramsey and Xhaka in the middle for Arsenal. The thing is, their back three looked decent before Mertesacker come in against Southampton. Monreal, Koscielny, Mustafi, they looked quite good. They were keeping clean sheets. Then against Man United, they threw everything they'd worked on up in the air, conceded silly goals. They did it again against Burnley, and then they did it again against Southampton. That defence is fragile, and that's what we've got to capitalise on. But last question, Charlie, who do you fear more? Hindsight's always a good thing. Try to take that out of the equation. But you've got the Chelsea's front three, which is Hazard, Morata, and whoever else they played up front against us, but the likes of Pedro and stuff.
William, did they? Yeah.
No, they brought him on and they brought Pedro on, so I can't remember who's on the right wing for Chelsea. Or do you fear Sanchez, Ozil, and Lacazette more?
On their day, it should be Sancho, Ozil, Lacazette. But the honest truth is that they aren't firing and fit, and even when they are, seemingly they seem to be 5 seconds away from having a bad game. So the honest truth is that I fear Chelsea more. I feared Chelsea more, and you're talking about hindsight. Obviously now I'm not too worried at all. But the honest truth is that those players are very, very good. Arsenal have, they really are, but they don't seem to work together on all cylinders every single game, and that's their biggest problem.
Yeah, I fear Arsenal's front three more, but I fear Chelsea's back 3/5 a lot more in their wing play from Alonso, etc. Anyway, let's talk about West Ham. Gonzo, we normally talk about team changes now. Is there any, in your opinion, or would you keep the exact same 11?
I would, as long as Antonio comes through. I say, is he even having a fitness test? Even if he's not, Antonio looked like he should probably be getting a fitness test at some point. So he looked completely out, didn't he? So as long as he's okay, I will keep the same team, certainly. How could you not?
Charlie, what about yourself? Would you be sticking with the exact same 11? Is it that easy for David Moyes for Wednesday night?
For once, I think it is. I think he's basically nailed it. I would actually change Antonio, though. I think I arrived in the ground late. I missed the flipping goal because, of course, I did. But even at that point, about 10 minutes in, he already looked like he was blowing up. He already looked like he was absolutely exhausted and shattered. His hands were on his side. So I wouldn't start him. The honest truth is he's clearly either not fit enough, or maybe he was ill, or maybe there's an injury, or something was wrong, which was hindering him. And unfortunately, I think in the way Dave Moyes wants to play, he's probably the best option for that role. But for me, I'd actually start Sacco, despite the fact I don't like him and I want him out of the club instantly and all this other stuff. I'd actually probably start him personally.
What about yourself, Gonzo? If Antonio couldn't play, who would you bring in place of him?
Well, this is really interesting because it seems as if, under normal circumstances, you'd expect Carroll to be heavily involved. But I just wonder if Moyes has taken a little look at Carroll over the first couple of games. Thought, I don't really fancy him. The fact that he's not come off the bench, I think probably speaks volumes. Sacco has come off the bench and not overly impressed me, it has to be said. I'm a Sacco fan, not of the man, not of the way he conducts himself. But traditionally, over the last couple of years, I've been a fan of Sacco and his energy and his eye for goal. I'm not really sure it's worked for him in a couple of games I've seen under Moyes. So I would really try and be looking to get Antonio as fit as I can. If it was any other team apart from Arsenal, I would just be saying get Chicharito in there and devise a system that gets the best out of him. But now is not the time to be devising a new system. We've got a system for playing these big teams. And also the one thing to bear in mind is we've had an extra day's rest. And actually not just an extra day's rest, an extra day and a couple of hours as well, because we had the early kickoff on the Saturday. They played Sunday afternoon. So I think we hopefully might have the edge over them on fitness as well. So I certainly would go with Antonio if at all possible.
Yeah, so would I. I kind of half disagree with Charlie. I think he did look knackered, but he had a big role to play. Him and Arnautovic just closing down. Their intense running, etc., was crucial for that win. And if a player does that and is blowing out his arse come the hour mark, fine, we can accept that. To defend Sacco for Gonzo, one, I think against City, you have to appreciate that he won the corner that we scored from out of nothing, but just by chasing it down. Then when he come on against Chelsea, we were already playing 10 men in the box. It was sort of like a thankless task in a way. He was going to have to pull out a miracle to do something against that Chelsea defence, considering he was 20 yards in front of their next man. I would keep Antonio as well. And, this starting 11, but I have to agree with Charlie. If Antonio can't play, I would put Sacco in because he's the most like Antonio out of the three. But let's talk about the three. Gonzo, on Saturday, David Moyes had 3 strikers on the bench plus Ayew. Is that the right thing to be doing, or do you think he should have a little bit of balls about himself and drop one of the senior strikers in order to have a more balanced bench? Because he only had one defensive player on there in Declan Rice.
It looked like, as soon as I saw it at the bench, it looked lopsided. Certainly, I don't want to be too critical of Moyes for that, because I would drop Carroll. I do think he's not been involved from the bench. I think he's looked at him. I think he's let him down in the first couple of games. I think sometimes a player's reputation can go before him. So I think maybe coming in, David Moyes had sort of ideas about Andy Carroll, maybe as a sort of Duncan Ferguson-esque type player. He's probably got for, actually, no, he's nothing like Duncan. I think with that, so I think he's been brave to drop him. I really do. I think him dropping Noble initially was brave. I think he's shown that he can be brave and he will drop players. So I think if he's gone that, he might as well go the extra mile and just drop him off the bench and then put a little bit more balance on there, as you say, and just a better balance of midfielders, attackers and defenders on there.
Charlie, is there any way, I mean, it's early in his tenure, etc., but can you see any way Hernandez fitting into the way we've been playing under David Moyes, especially over the last couple of games, which is, we assume, is how he's going to set up against Arsenal?
Yes, I can. I think it all depends on his own work rate, though, and that's something he controls. We don't. It's been brought up before on shows that the crosses that are getting put into the box are low, and they are good for someone like Diafra, like Hernandez, who has the positional sense to get into the right place at the right time, and that's very good. He also almost, I don't know whether he was told to do it or whether he was just so frustrated at the lack of seeing the ball that he would drop deep and get involved in the play. That's something else that he can do and has shown that he can do. He's not a great passer of the ball, but he's shown willingness to do it, and that's something that Antonio was doing the entire game. My one concern would be, like you say, the pressing of the front two, be it Antonio and Arnautovic or Hernandez and whoever. They need to be pressing and they need to be moving forward. And I'm not sure that's his game. I'm also not sure he's very good at controlling the ball from high. I don't think he's going to be winning any headers, but then again, Antonio wasn't exactly winning many either in that sense. So I think there is a place for him, and if we can somehow find the best out of him, that would be great. I've been saying that my first thing to buy in January would be a playmaker that fits in Moyes' system, because I'm more concerned about that than the striker as such. But as of the weekend, and I don't see him playing at all, to be honest with you.
Charlie, how do we win on Wednesday evening? Is there anything we need to capitalise on, or is there any weaknesses that we had against Chelsea and City to an extent that we need to be wary of that we might have got off with against and might get caught out against Arsenal?
I think City was a great indicator because they're essentially just a better version of Arsenal right now, to be frank about it. They play the sort of football that Arsenal would love to see their team play and are used to seeing their team play, and they're doing it brilliantly. And I don't think, although they do have world-class players who can pass, be it Ozil and people like Wilshere, who's almost David Silva-esque in that ability to move past people and find the right space, they aren't firing all cylinders. So I'm not too, I think it's just about keeping tight and keeping organized like we have been, and just creating that huge block of people that seems to really, really condense the play and stops them from playing. I think they look really fragile at the back, and those long balls forward and balls into space is what Southampton were getting in with. And I think we need someone who's going to be running into those channels, which is why I say Sakho, who's going to be able to create and run into the space and do something with the ball.
What about yourself, Gonzo? How do we win this one? And is there any weaknesses on our part that we need to be wary of?
There may well be tactical weaknesses, but I think in terms of belief is a huge thing. You go to shapes and tactics and all the rest of it. The confidence that the squad must have after that performance against Chelsea, and to a certain extent the backs to the wall approach against City, is going to be huge. That's really, really going to help them. We're going to go in there with a very similar game plan. I don't even think the crowd will mind. The crowd know what to expect because David Moyes has set his stall out, so the crowd will be quite happy for us to sit back and defend and do what we're going to do. And I think our confidence and our belief, the fact we're going to do that, will actually end up frustrating Arsenal. If, as you suggested at the start, they play Granit Xhaka and Ramsey, I think you said, and they are going to pass sideways, they're going to struggle to get through us. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do go for them on the counter, and maybe that's their weakness. I think Xhaka's a bit mad, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if he slides in and gets a card or two, you know. So our weakness is we're near the bottom of the league. There are ways to get at us. Do Arsenal have the wherewithal to do it? I'm not so sure.
I think we need to be. I think this game could be won or lost down our left side and Arsenal's right. Bellerin is in poor form for them at right wing back. Masuaku is in great form for us. That's where we could win it. However, Masuaku's defending. I don't think Chelsea pushed that enough. I don't think Chelsea tested him enough when he was the left wing back. There was a couple of times he got caught with the ball. Scott Collier from West Ham Fan TV was behind me at the game started, and he said to me, "Oh, do you notice how Pedro and Hazard are playing left wing against Zabaleta?" They kept going for Zabaleta. But the funny thing is, Zabaleta was coping. The weakness for us defensively was on the other side of the pitch, and Chelsea completely failed to even have a go at Masuaku. They completely failed to. And I think that's where the game could be won or lost in there. Southampton packed the middle of the pitch. They forced Arsenal out wide, and they just didn't like it. They didn't know what to do. They kept trying to come in. They kept trying to get into the box, tap it into the back of the net. And that's what Chelsea tried to do to us. And we pushed them out wide. They kept crossing it, but Bona, Creswell, and Reed just headed everything away. They had no aerial ability whatsoever, Chelsea. And Morata, and that was it. And I've got the feeling that Arsenal could be the same. And I think that's where it goes back to what Charlie said about Giroud. He's good in there. And if we force him out wide, he's our only real threat that we need to be wary of. But we won against Chelsea. So, Charlie, are you confident for this one?
I probably wouldn't say confident, but I'm certainly optimistic. I don't feel as... I think we've laid out a very good blueprint in the last couple of games for how we can approach games against the top sides, the big sides, and how we can control and deal with that. And I'm a lot more confident now in our organisation and midfield work rate than I was previously, in that I don't think they're just going to break us down as easily as teams have done in the past when teams have battered us. So I wouldn't say I was confident as such, but optimistic certainly.
Gonzo?
Yeah, I'm confident we won't get thrashed, and that's progress, believe it or not. I'm confident that we'll go in there with a game plan, and I'm sort of confident that we have some belief and we have the ability to get something out of the game. It might, you know, it might be a narrow defeat, it might be a draw, it might be a narrow victory, but I am confident we will contest this one and certainly give them a game, and that's progress. That's you look back at some of our results very, very recently, and you take that. You look at what's happened against Everton, you look at what's happened against Watford and the likes, Brighton. You're going to take that.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I'm confident we're going to be organised. I don't think we'll get smashed. I don't think we'd get smashed against Chelsea after what we saw at City. The first 15, 20 minutes is going to be massive in this game. It looks like that's going to be big under David Moyes, because that's when we'll have to score before we run back to our own box a little bit. And you sort of think, if we miss our chances, we don't take our chances, and we start going defensively, do we have that self-belief in that to really counter? Because we didn't really do it against Chelsea when we're 1-0 up. We're happy to boot the ball away and stay where we were. We weren't really looking to get the ball and burst at them. That's the only query, if you like. But I'm reasonably confident for this one. I'm confident in our defence. They're organised. They know what they're doing. The one thing that actually really impressed me about Saturday, it's just really strange, we were making fouls. I've said it in so many reviews, I hate watching someone get skinned and our player just stands there watching himself get skinned rather than just bringing him down and getting a booking and breaking up play. We did that. It was just the little things. Creswell did it. Reed did it halfway line. He got skinned. You rugby tackled the player, but then it just breaks up play, stops you counter-attack. And the one thing we can't deal with is pace. So don't deal with pace by getting rid of the pace. That's what we did. And that's what makes me optimistic, I'll say. I'm optimistic for this one. But Charlie, how optimistic are you? Prediction time. Give us your score.
I think they'll probably get a goal. But I think 1-1. I think it's going to be 1-1. I think it'll be 1-1, but it'll be a really good 1-1 where we actually look like we're capable of dealing with it. I think their goal is just going to be either a stupid mistake from someone or, like you say, we mentioned Giroud, maybe just Giroud getting in the box at the right time and just heading it in the back of the net. I don't think we're going to stop that. But I'm optimistic we'll actually get a goal and look decent. So 1-1.
Gonzo, I thought you were going to say 1-1. What's your score prediction, Gonzo?
Well, you were right in as much as you say being involved early is pivotal. Because when you let another team have 70% possession, you're going to do a lot of running around if you only have 30. So it is pivotal, but I do think we can score early. And I actually do believe we'll win this one, actually. And I don't believe Arsenal will score. I think we'll win 1-0. And I think they'll be really, really frustrated.
Yeah, that'll be another game that we've won that we've still not conceded and won at the London Stadium in the Premier League. So got in both of you two, and neither of you are saying we're going to break that duck yet. What I will say is, though, is Arsenal's only won 2 of their 8 away games so far in the Premier League, I think. Their away results are just not that good. However, well, to be fair to us, we've scored in all our home games except one, which was against Brighton. We're still scoring goals. We've just been defensively crap. David Moyes is sorting out the crap part, so hopefully he doesn't hinder the attacking part too much. I'm going to go for my favourite score, 2-2. It's not happened for a while, but I'm going to go for 2-2. I think this one's going to have goals in it. I think both teams have got loads of attacking options. One side, you've got Ozil, Lacazette, Sanchez, Giroud. The other side of the pitch, well, we've spoke about Arnautovic and Antonio starting up front, but that leaves Carroll, Hernandez, Sacco and Ayew all on the bench. There's goals on both sides of this one. I think we're going to see it on Wednesday night. I think fatigue's going to play a part. Both teams have just played at the weekend in quite a high-intensive game. eventually, come the last 10, 15 minutes of this game, fatigue could creep in. You could see goals in that one. But anyway, let us know what you think at home. Drop a comment below. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll be back on Wednesday night straight after the game. I ain't going down to the London Stadium from Aberdeen on a Wednesday in December. So I'll be back here with a couple of people. I think Gonzo might be joining me, and someone else might be joining me as well. So join us for the review on Wednesday night. Until then, we'll see you in a bit.